Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. President Trump's facing accusations of supporting ethnic cleansing in Gaza after saying he wants to, quote, clean out the whole thing. Trump made the remark while speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One Saturday.
I'd like Egypt to take people, and I'd like Jordan to take people. I mean, you're talking about probably 1.5 million people, and we just clean out that whole thing. It's, it's over the centuries that's many, many conflicts that site. And I don't know, it's something has to happen, but it's literally a demolition site right now. Almost everything's demolished.
Egypt and Jordan have rejected Trump's call. This is Jordan's foreign minister, Ayman Safadi.
Our stance that the two-state solution is the path to achieving peace is firm and unwavering. Our rejection of displacement is also firm and unwavering. This is not only the steadfast and unwavering position of the kingdom, but it is also a necessity for achieving the security, stability, and peace that we all desire.
Hassan Jabarin of the Palestinian human rights group Adala likened Trump's proposal to the, quote, ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people, unquote. Israel's far-right finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, called Trump's proposal to clear Gaza of Palestinians a great idea. Smotrich has backed building new illegal Israeli settlements in Gaza. We'll have more on this story after headlines. Tens of thousands of displaced Palestinians are returning to North Gaza today, many for the first time in over a year, as the Israel-Hamas ceasefire enters its second week. But most Palestinians will be returning to find their homes reduced to rubble. The UN estimates 92% of homes in Gaza have been destroyed or damaged during Israel's 15-month bombardment. Hala Shala is a 19-year-old Palestinian heading back to Gaza City.
We experienced tremendous hardship from the moment we left Gaza City. We were displaced from Gaza City's Sujaiya neighborhood. After leaving, we spent 2 nights, one night in Al-Dian. Then we moved to Khan Yunis and stayed at Al-Aqsa University. We've been displaced multiple times. When we heard the war had stopped and people could return to Gaza City, we desperately wanted to go back to Gaza City because we missed our home and everyone in Gaza City. Our house was destroyed, but we're fine with living among the rubble.
On Saturday, Hamas released 4 female Israeli soldiers who'd been held hostage since October 7, 2023. Israel then released 200 imprisoned Palestinians, including 70 who are being forced into exile abroad. Hamas has also agreed to release 3 more Israeli hostages by Thursday, including a female civilian named Arbel Yahud. Meanwhile, Israel is being accused of preventing 11 doctors and nurses from the United States from leaving northern Gaza. In the occupied West Bank, Israeli forces shot dead a 2-year-old Palestinian girl named Leila Mohammed Ayman al-Khatib on Saturday. The girl was eating dinner with her family in their living room when Israeli snipers fired 4 shots into their home near Jenin. One of the bullets hit Leila in the back of the head. Israeli forces have killed at least 16 people in or near Jenin over the past week. In Lebanon, Israeli forces opened fire on people trying to return to their homes in the south of Lebanon. Israeli forces killed at least 24 people and wounded more than 134 people. Israel had been scheduled to withdraw troops from southern Lebanon by Sunday, but the White House has announced a deal has been reached to delay the withdrawal until February 18th. In news from Washington, D.C., Secretary of State Marco Rubio has frozen almost all foreign aid coming from the State Department and USAID. But Rubio's memo exempts military funding to 2 countries, Israel and Egypt. Rubio's memo came as the Trump administration announced the U.S. would resume sending 2,000-pound bombs to Israel, lifting a hold put in place by the Biden administration. The U.S. Senate has confirmed Pete Hegseth as Defense Secretary. Vice President J.D. Vance cast a rare tie-breaking vote to confirm Hegseth, the former Fox News host and combat veteran who faced accusations of rape, spousal abuse, excessive drinking on the job, and financial mismanagement. 3 Republican senators joined Democrats in opposing him. Former Senate leader Mitch McConnell Lisa Murkowski, and Susan Collins. Ahead of the vote, Democratic Senator Tim Kaine said there were many more qualified people for the post.
There are hundreds of them without the personal baggage of sexual assault claims that have been settled, of allegations of spousal abuse that have been testified to, of allegations of drunkenness on the job and fiscal mismanagement that are the subject of a very extensive report written by non-anonymous co-workers.
We'll look at Pete Hegseth's embrace of extreme Christian nationalism later in the broadcast. The Senate has also confirmed South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem to head the Department of Homeland Security. The final vote, 59-34, with 7 Democrats supporting her. John Fetterman, Maggie Hassan, Tim Kaine, Andy Kim, Gary Peters, Jean Shaheen, and Elissa Slotkin. On Friday night, President Trump fired a dozen independent inspectors general across federal agencies. The move appears to violate a federal law that requires the president to give Congress 30 days' notice before firing an inspector general confirmed by the Senate. A group of House Democrats wrote a letter to Trump demanding he reverse the purge, saying it's, quote, antithetical to good government and undermines the proper stewardship of taxpayer dollars, unquote. The White House has announced the government of Colombia has agreed to begin accepting flights of deported immigrants after a dramatic standoff between the two countries. On Sunday, the Colombian president, Gustavo Petro, turned back 2 U.S. military planes carrying deported people, saying immigrants should be treated with dignity. President Trump then imposed new tariffs and sanctions on Colombia. Petro responded with retaliatory tariffs on U.S. imports, but within hours, the White House announced a deal had been reached. The standoff with Colombia comes as the Trump administration announced nearly 1,000 people were arrested Sunday as federal agencies carried out immigration raids in Chicago and other cities. In Chicago, agents with ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, were assisted by the FBI, the Drug Enforcement Administration, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and the U.S. Marshal Service. The Washington Post reports the Trump administration wants every ICE field office to make at least 75 immigration arrests per day as part of a new quota system. Local communities are pushing back. On Friday, school officials in Chicago refused to allow agents into an elementary school. School officials at first thought the agents were from ICE, but they were actually from the U.S. Secret Service. The Justice Department has announced it'll limit enforcement of a 1994 law known as the FACE Act that protects abortion clinics and people seeking abortion care. The Trump administration says it will only prosecute individuals who unlawfully block access to abortion clinics and reproductive health centers in extraordinary circumstances, such as killing someone or causing serious bodily or property harm. Trump also pardoned 23 people convicted under the law. Also on Friday, Trump reinstated and expanded the so-called Mexico City policy, also referred to as the global gag rule, which cuts off U.S. aid to any overseas group that provides abortion services, information, or advocacy. South Korean prosecutors have charged impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol with insurrection after his failed attempt to impose martial law in December, which plunged South Korea into political turmoil. The insurrection charge could lead to a sentence of life imprisonment for Yoon or even the death penalty, though South Korea has not carried out an execution in decades. In the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo, M23 rebels say they've seized Goma, the capital of North Kivu province. UN Chief Antonio Guterres called on Rwandan forces to immediately withdraw from the DRC and end its support for M23 fighters, while the Congolese government called Goma's capture a declaration of war by Rwanda. Fighting across the Congo-Rwanda border has also been reported. Some 400,000 people have been forced to flee their homes in eastern Congo since the start of the year, as M23 fighters advance towards Goma, compounding an already disastrous humanitarian situation. Over the weekend, the UN moved to evacuate its staff in the area after 13 UN peacekeeper soldiers were killed fighting the M23. Following an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council Sunday, Congolese Foreign Minister Therese Kaikwamba Wagner called the unfolding situation in her country one of the, quote, darkest periods in recent history, and called for the UN Security Council to sanction Rwanda and impose an embargo on the exploitation of natural resources.
Since January 6, 2025, these legal forces have intensified their attacks, taking over strategic localities such as Katale, Masisi, displacing millions of civilians and destroying vital infrastructure and committing massive human rights violations. These acts are not only attacks against the people of the Congo, but also against the fundamental principles that govern peaceful coexistence between the nations.
In Sudan, an estimated 70 people were killed by a drone strike on a hospital in North Darfur's besieged city of El Fasher. The World Health Organization says the Saudi teaching maternal hospital, the last functioning hospital in the area, was packed with patients receiving care when the attack occurred. Sudan's government blamed the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, for the massacre. Prior to the assault, RSF had given a 48-hour ultimatum to the Sudanese armed forces to leave El Fasher, warning of escalating attacks. The hospital attack also came a day after 2 U.S. lawmakers said the United Arab Emirates is continuing to provide arms to the RSF, which the Biden administration recently accused of committing genocide in Sudan. Over 14 million people have been displaced by the war, which started in April 2023. 3 million of those have become refugees, most of them crossing the border to South Sudan and Chad. In news from Germany, the world's richest man, Elon Musk, took a break from advising Donald Trump Saturday to give a surprise virtual address to the far-right AfD party, that's Alternative for Germany. Musk's appearance came just days after he sparked controversy for twice giving a Nazi salute at a Trump inaugural event. Among other things, Musk told attendees it's time to move on from past guilt, an apparent reference to Nazism and the Holocaust.
Well, first of all, I wanted to really say that I'm very excited for the AfD. It's good to be proud of German culture, German values, and not to lose that in some sort of multiculturalism that dilutes everything.
The U.S. Air Force says it will continue using an educational video about the Tuskegee Airmen, the first black Air Force members, and another video about the first women Air Force members, after the videos were briefly pulled from the Air Force curriculum, triggering widespread backlash. The reversal comes after the videos were put under review as part of the Trump administration's order to halt all efforts to promote DEI. That's diversity, equity, and inclusion. And Switzerland is facing widespread criticism for arresting and detaining the Palestinian-American journalist Ali Abu Nima of the online publication Electronic Intifada. The UN Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Opinion and Expression, Irene Khan, called his arrest shocking news. The UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in the Occupied Territories, Francesca Albanese, wrote, quote, "The climate surrounding freedom of speech in Europe is becoming increasingly toxic, and we should all be concerned," she said. Ali Abu Nima was arrested ahead of a speaking event in Zurich. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.